ancient fortresses and the very depths of a city of bones to a famous restaurant. This week we journey into the world's most chilling locations, places where history bleeds into the present and whispers of the past echo through darkened corridors. Prepare for tales of restless spirits, echoing screams, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Tonight on Newsworthy, two words and two question marks.
He's alive! Have you checked the children? Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us, Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. Two words and two question marks.
Hello, I'm Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Tax season is upon us. Did you know that 47% of Americans are planning to use their tax refunds for everyday expenses, home improvements, and vacations? What if you used your tax refund for a new home instead? Again, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Your tax refund can be used towards down payment, closing costs, or paying down existing debt to help get approved. So before you spend that tax refund, let's get together and see how to best utilize those funds to invest in your future and your new home. Call or text me at 502-680-0953. Again, that's 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, Das Acquisitions LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
Yeah, we're here. We're finally here. Welcome to
That we
Newsworthy. Two words, two question marks. I'm Steve,
And I'm Jerry.
and Brett is not here with us tonight. Brett is doing some pre work on an upcoming episode. He is currently climbing the summit of Mount Hayes.
Don't you appreciate that dedication?
I do, especially if he like loses a toe or something due to frostbite. That'd be neat.
Don't jinx him now.
So hopefully Brett can get us some good stories, some good videos, and some good whatever we need for Mount Hayes. That is an upcoming
Absolutely.
episode. I asked him actually go to Gobekli Tepe. He said nope. He wanted to be a man's man and climb Mount Hayes. And the way he explained it to me, he was doing it shirtless.
Really?
So he said he had plenty of back hair to keep him warm.
Okay.
So
Maybe he'll even get lucky and get one of the local Yetis to that area to braid some of that back hair for
ooh, he can find out if the Yeti is a grower, not a shower.
him. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Jerry, I had someone yesterday ask me the weirdest question.
Really? What was it?
They asked me what the eighth letter of the alphabet was.
Eighth letter.
Eighth letter. I was wrong.
You were. Surely not.
Yeah.
Surely not.
Yeah, I was. But quit calling me Shirley.
Why, you don't like that name? Speaking of names.
Do you not know that reference? First of all,
Of
stop.
course.
We have to stop this. If you don't know that reference, we can't be friends.
course.
The podcast is over. I quit. I'm leaving.
But
and
your
move on.
memory's getting worse than mine.
Okay.
We've had this exact same discussion on air before.
Whew. Okay. Well, good. I
Speaking
told
of
you.
names, my wife is kind of pissed off at me. She called and asked me if I pick up chips and salsa on my way home from work today,
Yeah.
and then hung up on me. Apparently, she's still pissed off that she let me name the twins.
Oh, Jerry, that's good. Is that did you steal that one? Give
Well,
credit
it's
to where
still
you-
all of them.
Oh,
That's from the Reddit thread.
okay.
This
gotcha.
next one, I'm going to do a two for
Oh,
tonight.
go ahead. Let's hear it down.
This is the one that
from
I heard that I stole from one of our previous guests,
Who?
Mr. Kevin Hall.
Kevin Hall.
He was nice enough to said that in his email he said he'd come across a dad joke and immediately thought of us and sent it, and it's a good one. I went down to the paint store to get thinner today. It didn't work. I'm still fat. Thank you, Mr. Kevin. We appreciate that.
That's kind of like with the membership I have at the gym, I haven't lost a thing. So I went down the other day to see what was going on.
There you go. I like that one.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many of those. I tried to tell the wife the other day that she said that I needed to get in shape. I said I am in shape. Round is a shape. That did
Yep.
not go over well.
Just not the shape that she prefers, huh?
Right. You know that middle age spread. What's that called? When dudes start getting.
Middle age spread.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well,
You had it.
woo.
You had it.
So anyway, we do miss Brett's being here tonight, but that doesn't stop us. We go forward. We go forth. Yay.
Yes, we do.
Got a good episode tonight. We were in the mood to get a little scary. Hadn't done a good scary episode in a while, so I'm really excited about tonight's episode. We each took and found what we consider like the two of the most haunted places we could find in the world. And actually, both of mine ended up being the United States. I think both of yours are overseas. Yeah,
In Europe.
so it worked out pretty good. And I'll start with one if you don't care.
By all means, go ahead.
I want to start in the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri. It's a historic house with a fascinating yet tragic history. Built in the 1860s, it was home to the Lemp family, who were prominent brewers in the city. The mansion is known for its ghostly legends and is considered one of the most haunted places in all of America. This place has a tragedy on top of tragedy on top of tragedy. The Lemp family founded the Western Brewery, which became one of the largest and most successful breweries in St. Louis. However, the family was plagued by a series of tragedies. William Lemp Sr., the patriarch of the family, died by suicide in 1904 after the death of his favorite son, Frederick. William Lemp Jr. took over the brewery, but also died by suicide in the mansion in 1922. Charles Lemp, another family member, died by suicide in the mansion in 1949.
Jeez.
Yeah, the mansion is said to be haunted by several members of the Lemp family. Visitors and staff have all reported numerous paranormal activities, including apparitions of the Lemp family members have been seen throughout the entire mansion. Unexplained sounds such as footsteps and voices are often heard. Sudden drops in temperature and cold spots are frequently experienced in certain areas of the house. Today, however, the Lemp Mansion operates as a restaurant and inn and offers ghost tours, mystery dinners, and even an overnight stay for those brave enough to spend the night. The mansion's rich history and eerie atmosphere make it both a popular destination for history buffs and paranormal enthusiasts. Would you, Jerry, want to go stay the night in the Lemp Mansion?
I would.
Really? F that.
Well, what are you and I going to do in a month?
Oh, I am so stoked. Can we give it away?
Sure. Well, I think we already have. I think we've.
In 1 month's time, we are going to a super secret location to where I had my personal encounter, and Tommy, my good buddy back in the day, now owns the farm, where we had a joint encounter with something.
Bigfoot
Bigfoot,
cryptid
some sort
Yeti,
of
whatever.
something. And Jerry wants to go see it, so I want to go see it. So we're gonna go check it out. We're also probably stopping a couple of different places that are in
Yes.
that area that are also haunted. I don't want to give all that away,
But it was one of the other places that I was referencing. We're not going to this time, but we had plans before, and I've said I would spend the night in the one place.
yeah. So really excited. We're going to go do that on May 3rd. We're going to record things. We're going to take video. It'll all be posted. It'll be great.
But you had agreed to go spend the night there, so you wouldn't have a problem spending the one place in Cynthiana.
Oh, yeah.
So you wouldn't have a problem with that, but you would.
I don't think I would have a problem in any of them, but this is really, I mean, there are so many people who died the same way. Now, you could say that that's a family history of mental illness, maybe, or that something is pulling the strings, if you will, giving people that nudge. That I think you have to have a certain, and I am not a psychiatrist by any stretch of the imagination, but I think for people to truly do the suicide thing, you have had to lose all hope. I mean, you have to be at a point of, it's not something you do, I don't think, lightly. I think humans, for the most part, are
Want to live.
We want to survive.
Yes.
We want that's
Human
why,
nature.
yeah, it is. So for so many people of the same family to do the same thing in the same house, it makes you think that there's something else there.
I would
pulling the
100% agree.
Yeah.
But like you said, it could be genetic. It could be something neurological issue that runs in the family. It could be something pulling the strings. It could be something as simple as, please don't misunderstand. I've not looked into this at all. I am by
Sure.
no means saying this is the case, but if you had an extremely cruel mom or dad, that could drive multiple children to this.
Mhm.
But I would agree that something was causing this many different members of one family to commit suicide. That's just, when's the last time you heard of, what was it, 3 members
Yeah.
of the same family?
In the same house.
I don't think I've ever heard of 3 members of a family committing suicide. Yeah, very unusual. So something I would think had to be causing that. That's pretty crazy.
Indeed.
Even so, I think it was something in the family. I
Yeah.
still would not have a problem going to spend the night there. Now,
Interesting.
again, I'm not one of those people that's going to listen to a bunch of thumps in the night and say, I think I'll stay here. A couple thumps and I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. I'll tell you that. But would I be? No, I would go.
Remind me when we go down to Tommy's farm to take you by the house, by the river.
Sure. Whose house? Or will you know when I mention the house by the
Yes,
river?
I'll know.
Okay.
Because some of those addresses we have to, we can't just say because
Right.
other people live there now. So, all right, Jerry. Now save the one under the.
Okay.
You can do that one last because that one creeps the hell out of me.
It should. I think it would anyway. I think both of mine creep me out a little bit.
Yeah.
The first one I'm going to do is the Tower of London, and we've all heard about it. It's famous for a lot of reasons, right? It was built almost 1,000 years ago. It was originally built by William the Conqueror as a mighty stone tower at the center of his London fortress. It has been a protector of the crown jewels. It's home of the yeoman warders and its legendary guardians. The tower attracts over 3 million visitors each year. And it's been used for many things over the years, including the Royal Armories, the Royal Mint, and at one time it was even a zoo. But it has also been utilized for more nefarious purposes, among them a prison. I think we all know that. We've heard of. Excuse me. 1 second. Oh, I had something stuck in my throat. That was not a good feeling. But yeah, we've all heard of it being a prison. Now, in the years, the hundreds of years that it was a prison, you found something about that very funny.
No. If first of all, I want to reference for our listeners. Pete Holmes is a comedian. He's very funny. He has a series of skits. He does the X-Men, where he's firing the X-Men. He presents himself as Professor X.
Okay.
One of the things that he does is Street Fighter Red Tape. And one of the skits within that is he's trying to get Blanca, one of the Street Fighters, to get on a plane in a crate. It's hilarious. But there's a whole part where he says, I've got something stuck in my throat. It's hilarious. I'm sorry, I couldn't stop. Watch the video. Go to YouTube. Watch Street Fighter Red Tape Blanca. You'll know what I'm talking about. Anywho,
Gotcha.
please continue, Jerry.
Where were we? Torture and imprisonment, I think, at the prison when it was being used as a prison for the Tower of London. And the torture and imprisonment were commonplace throughout much of its history, not just a prison. Prison is one thing. Now, among some of the methods of torture that they know were used, beatings, floggings, starvation, to the point that multiple people were starved to death, just no longer fed until they died. Have you ever heard of the old racks they would put people on and then begin to stretch their limbs? They use those. They still have some of the original equipment. Some of the famous people that you probably heard of that were imprisoned at the Tower include Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII. She was held at the Tower before her execution in 1536.
She couldn't give her husband a son.
And you'll hear Henry VIII more than once. Apparently, he really liked putting people in prison at the Tower and then killing them. Sir Walter Raleigh was imprisoned for 13 years in the Bloody Tower. He wrote his History of the World during his confinement there. The princes in the Tower, Princes Edward V and Richard of Shrewsbury, who mysteriously disappeared in 1483, are among the Tower's most tragic figures. Lady Jane Grey, known as the 9 Days Queen. She got the name because she was queen for 9 days. She was imprisoned and later executed in 1554. Elizabeth I, before becoming queen, she was imprisoned by her half-sister Mary I in 1554. Joseph Jacobs, a German spy. He was the last person executed at the Tower during World War II in 1941. Now, we mentioned Anne Boleyn and Lady Jane Grey and Joseph Jacobs being executed there. It was also used extensively as an execution site. Some other people that were executed there: Catherine Howard, another wife of, guess who? Henry VIII, was executed for adultery and treason. Now, she, along with Lady Jane Grey and Anne Boleyn, are the 3 queens that were executed at the Tower. 3 queens of England were executed, beheaded, by the way, for all of them, at the Tower of London.
Do you say guillotine or guillotine?
Guillotine.
Thank you.
That's what I say. Is that not what you say?
No, it's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Lady Jane Grey was Queen of England for 9 days. We mentioned her earlier. She was queen from July 10th to July 19th of 1553. Now, she was proclaimed queen as part of an unsuccessful bid to prevent the ascension of her cousin, Mary Tudor. And Lady Jane Grey was an unfortunate pawn in a plot to replace Mary I. She was queen for 9 days. She was in prison. Mary I succeeded her to the throne. Lady Jane Grey was eventually executed for high treason in 1554 at the age of 17.
So why would somebody not? I mean, if you're King Henry VIII, you got lots of people around you. Why would you not have somebody pull you off to the side and say, "Yo, King, you don't have to marry all these people. You're the king."
Well, he was king. He apparently, if you disagreed with him very much, he had you thrown in the prison and executed. You do that a time or two, how many people are going to pull you aside until you jack?
Well, that's true. Good point. I stand corrected.
I mean, that's, that also, haven't you noticed that in the business world with micromanagers? People who think they have to control everything, and if anyone says something they don't like, they're getting them in trouble real quickly. They will force themselves into a corner by themselves, and no one is telling them anything because everyone's afraid to give them feedback.
I know that personally, firsthand.
Yeah. It happens, sadly.
And you stifle any growth.
Absolutely.
You completely, micromanaging is something that was very popular in the 80s, 70s, 80s, early 90s, but very rapidly fell out of favor when we both had a manager that was that way.
Yep.
And at the same company, and every little tedious thing was, and you can't grow under that umbrella.
Very true.
Anyhow, sorry.
A horribly bad method of management. Ineffective, so time consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, a couple of other people that were executed. Thomas More in 1535. A statesman and philosopher was executed for refusing to acknowledge Henry VIII as supreme head of the Church of England. Here's why that came about. Henry VIII, with I think his first wife, decided he wanted to divorce her. At the time that England was part of the Roman Catholic Church, went to the Pope, asked for permission to divorce her and remarry, was denied, was not given approval. Said, screw you, I'll start my own church, left the Roman Catholic Church. Thomas More refused to acknowledge Henry VIII as supreme head of the church, had him killed. Remember earlier when you said, why didn't someone take him to the side?
Yeah.
This is why. Margaret Pole, the Countess of Salisbury in 1541, a member of the Plantagenet family, was also executed for treason. Go ahead.
I just want to, before we go away from that, I just want to point out maybe the obvious. So Henry VIII was concerned enough about the afterlife to want to dictate it to his terms, but cared so little about it that if they didn't like his terms, he just had them put to death.
Oh, it wasn't even, well, in this one case, but for his ex-wives, for several of them, they did nothing wrong. He found
Right.
a newer, younger,
Right.
prettier, decided he wanted to divorce them. That wasn't acceptable in those days and times. So he
So
would accuse them of treason. He would accuse them of adultery, throw them in the prison for a few months, have them executed, and then was free to remarry because he was
Yeah.
no longer currently married.
Right. No, I
Did
get
that multiple times.
Hey, but what I'm saying
No,
is
I
how
get it.
messed up
Yeah.
the moral compass is there.
Zero more. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, in total, over 125 people are believed to have been executed in the tower or on the nearby Tower Hill. Now, with that history, it's no surprise that the Tower of London is also known as one of the most haunted places in the world. You can certainly see where the rumors might start, even if it
No.
wasn't true. Guards, visitors, and even staff have reported seeing apparitions of former prisoners and executed individuals. The tower is supposedly haunted by multiple ghosts. Some of the ones that are most commonly mentioned are imprisoned in the Wakefield Tower of the Tower of London. Henry VI was murdered at the altar of the King's private chapel in 1471. It was almost midnight when that happened. His ghost is believed to haunt the Wakefield Tower, appearing every night at the stroke of midnight. Now, as ghost stories go, there are few as spooky and as tragic as this one. But when King Henry VIII broke with the Roman Catholic Church to set aside his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, and became the supreme head of his new church, the Church of England, Anne Boleyn became his second wife. 3 years later, he accused her of adultery, and she was taken as prisoner by barge along the River Thames to the Tower of London through the infamous Traitor's Gate. She was beheaded on Tower Green and laid to rest in the Chapel Royal of St. Peter. Her ghost is said to still be seen roaming around the tower. Pretty nice guy, huh? Henry
Yeah,
VIII.
you know, he sounds like the kind of guy I want to hang out with.
Have a couple beers with.
No, not even a little. Worse than Obama. And I've often, well, or Trump. I mean, you take your pick. Those are two guys that I've never. We often talk
Totally
politics a little bit, but neither one of those guys are a guy I'd want to go have a brew with. You know, I'd have a drink with George W. I think he'd be a fun guy to have a drink with. But
You know who I'd love to sit down and have a beer with?
who?
Gronk.
Who?
Gronk.
Oh.
Rob Gronkowski. That guy would
What
be
a
so much
random-
fun to party with.
What a random name.
Well, we just think talking about that dude would just, he'd be the life of the party. You
Yeah,
can just
right.
tell it by watching him being around.
Interesting.
A few more people. Guy Fawkes. He was taken to the Tower of London after his part in a plot to assassinate James the First at Parliament in 1605. He was imprisoned in the Queen's house. Guy Fawkes was eventually subjected to intense torture, likely on the rack, and they say that you can still hear his screams in the tower. Sent to the tower no less than 3 times, explorer Sir Walter Raleigh was imprisoned by both Elizabeth I and James I. He spent over 13 years in the tower during one confinement. He attempted suicide at one point. He wasn't successful. His last imprisonment at the Tower of London and the Beauchamp Tower took place in 1603, before he was beheaded outside the Palace of Westminster. Many say that his spirit still haunts the tower. An oft-repeated ghost sighting at the Tower of London is also that of Arabella Stuart, cousin to Elizabeth I. She was imprisoned by James I. Her crime was that she had married William Seymour, the nephew of Lady Jane Grey. She did it without royal consent. Seeing this match as a possible threat to his throne, James placed Arabella under arrest, where she either refused to eat or, as most accounts say, she was purposely starved. She died. Her ghost is thought to still stalk the Queen's house.
I can't think of a more horrible way to go.
That would be absolutely horrible.
You know, we talked a little bit in a different episode about being buried alive.
Yep.
That would be pretty bad, but it wouldn't be as long, I don't think, before you ran out of air, before you ran out of something, or your heart shut down. Just to slowly succumb to starvation is horrifying.
Yeah. How long is it
Horrifying.
they say that it will take to starve to death if you're hydrated?
2-3 weeks.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Now, if they're not hydrated, it'll be a matter of 3 or 4 days, I think.
Yeah. Water is a big one.
Right. Yeah, you have to be able to stay hydrated. So, yeah, absolutely horrible.
Mm.
Tower of London, a few things that we probably didn't know about. I know several of those I never heard of.
So one of the things that we often talk about in Newsworthy here is proof, or people of character who all have seen something and corroborate the same
Right.
stories.
Makes
right?
it far more believable.
Makes it far more believable.
Absolutely.
Well, let me run a list of names by you, Jerry,
Sure.
and you tell me if these are people of
Credible.
high credibility.
Sure.
Winston Churchill,
Absolutely.
the Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands,
I would assume so with their title.
Grace Coolidge, the first
Sure,
lady of
yes.
Calvin Coolidge. What about Theodore Roosevelt?
Oh, absolutely.
What about Eleanor Roosevelt? Harry Truman, Mary Todd Lincoln. These are all people
Tom.
that would be very credible.
One would think.
And you don't get a job as part of the staff that runs the White House without having a thorough background check and you being on the level.
I'm sure.
Well, multiple of these people all have seen ghosts or apparitions in the very next thing we're going to talk about. One of the most haunted places in the United States, the White House.
I'll be darned.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue has been around since almost as long as our country, minus the rebuild after England almost burned it to the ground. Thank you, Brits. Appreciate that. Oh, well, it got a nice coating of white now, and it's beautiful, and we love it. However, the White House has long been rumored to be haunted by the spirits of several past presidents, first ladies, and other historical figures. Here's just a little list, Jerry, of the people that are said to roam the rooms and the hallways of the White House. Abraham Lincoln. Perhaps the most famous White House ghost is Abraham Lincoln. He has been spotted in the Lincoln bedroom and the yellow Oval Room. Winston Churchill himself said to have seen Lincoln with his top hat and all in the Oval Office.
I'll be darned.
Willie Lincoln, the young son of Abraham, who also died in the White House, has been seen by staff members running up and down the hallways since the 1870s. Can you imagine being a kid forever, running up and down the hallways, seeing all the
Yeah.
people change? Andrew Jackson is probably the most violent ghost in the White House. Known when he was alive for his violent temper and his fiery outburst, Andrew, his ghost, is said to let out guttural laughs in the Rose Room, which was his bedchamber during his presidency. He's also been known to be seen in the Oval Office and other rooms, loudly cursing and saying profanities as he walks down the hallway.
Good darn.
Thomas Jefferson. Some claim to hear Thomas Jefferson playing his violin in the Yellow Oval Room, which is the Oval Office. He was an avid violin player, and that was, a lot of presidents today golf. He played the violin, and that was his release. Dolly Madison, the former First Lady, was said to have protected the Rose Garden, and she ensures that it remains as it was originally intended. The Rose Garden. Crazy, right?
Very.
John Tyler has been seen in there, and he once proposed to a second wife in the Blue Room, and that's where they say they see his ghost often on one knee. Crazy,
darn.
right?
Very.
William Henry Harrison was the first president to actually die in the White House, and his spirit seems to be lingering in the attic. Now, you have to have super special clearances to get in the attic. So the people because that's where all the security apparatus is now and the secret stuff that they install. So if you see this ghost, you report it, you're pretty darn credible. Just want to say that. Abigail Adams used the East Room to hang laundry, and staff members have reported smelling wet laundry and lavender often in that room, especially in the spring. There's an unnamed British soldier that people have seen on the grounds. He holds a torch and walks around the grounds as if patrolling, and has since 1812. David Burns, and that's a name that a lot of people won't recognize, but David Burns is the actual landowner who sold the government the land to build the White House originally. His ghost is often seen and heard saying, "Hello, I'm David Burns," in the Oval Office when new people come in to visit the president. Can you imagine your first time in the White House and you hear, "Hello, I'm David Burns," and there's no one else but you and whoever you're with?
Nope. Sure can.
The final one is Anna Surratt, the daughter of Mary Surratt, who was actually executed for her role in Lincoln's assassination. She is said to be banging on the White House doors, pleading to see President Andrew Johnson. And this happens enough where there's even been rumors that the Secret Service have given that a nickname when the door starts banging.
Really?
So the White House has certainly seen its fair share of history. And some of those residents probably still sticking around. Again, would you want to go check out the White House and have a night in the Lincoln's bedroom?
Sure.
Knowing that this is, how could you turn down a night in Lincoln's bedroom?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting place, and it makes a lot of sense given all the energy that's involved in the White House itself. I'll tell this story because it's the closest I ever been to the White House. I've never been. They offer tours sometimes. You can go through the White House. You lived right outside of Washington, and I brought the boys up to visit and see you guys. And we were down on the mall, and the 3 helicopters, Air Force Two, were coming in. This is during President Obama's presidency. Right. And we were up toward the White House. And we saw the helicopters coming, and then we saw them do their switcheroo thing. Yep. So that's how we knew it was the actual president. And the boys ran up, and they got to see President Obama walk from that into the White House. And yeah, it's one of those things. It's a matter of respect in the office. Sure. Whether you like the guy or you don't like the guy, it doesn't matter. It's the respect for the office. And
they were young, and that's something they'll remember for the rest of their life.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
I thought that was neat. So the White House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, one of the most haunted places in the United States.
You mentioned, and I'm not going to go against that. But a minute ago, you mentioned how uh, to get into the attic, you've got to have, special access, really limited. That reminded me of a story, and I Googled it. Do you remember who is known for having smoked pot on the roof, not the attic, but on the roof of the White House?
No.
Jimmy Carter wrote a documentary after he left office, and he told this story. And I can't imagine Jimmy Carter,
No.
who wasn't known to lie, stretch the truth, to be very religious. He told this story that one time Willie Nelson was visiting,
Of
and
course,
Willie
it's
Nelson and his Jimmy Carter's son Chip went on the White House roof and smoked a joint.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could believe that.
This is not Obama or Bush. We've had a bunch that, might for a laugh tell us. Jimmy Carter, if he said it, you can believe it.
He
And
was probably
especially-
mortified.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This
Yeah.
guy was a Sunday school teacher in a Southern
Right.
Baptist church in Plains, Georgia for like 60 years.
Yeah.
For him to say his son did this, he wasn't happy about it, and he certainly wouldn't have made it up. Yeah. Just thought that was interesting. And, Chip Carter, I'm surprised. Willie Nelson, there is no one in the United States of America that's one bit surprised. It was like, I'm surprised that he had the opportunity, but if he had an opportunity, Willie's going to take
He
it.
would do it in the White House, in the Oval Office, if given the opportunity, I'm sure.
Wasn't it Toby Keith that won, I think, an CMA award, or like 2 or 3 awards one show? And he had been there earlier in the night. They knew it. They saw him. And when he won the awards, they're calling his name and he doesn't come up. And the next day they're asking him, where were you?
He was about 2 weeks later, he sang that song on Bob and Tom. I'm never smoking weed with Willie again.
That's exactly what he's doing. Willie Nelson come up to him and said, I got some pretty good stuff outside my RV. Yeah, that Mr. Willie Nelson.
So tell us this one that you've got saved, because this one is just downright creepy.
The Catacombs of Paris, France. I'd heard of them, but I never really looked into it at all.
Oh,
I knew about what you did. When I mentioned it to you, you're like, isn't there a bunch of bones down there?
right.
And that is very true. Great way to oversimplify what it actually is. The Catacombs of Paris is an underground labyrinth of ossuaries, which are rooms to hold the bones of dead people. They contain the remains of more than 6 million people. You heard correctly. The bones
6
of more than 6
million?
million people, they believe. There's
Where
no.
did they come from?
Well, first of all, the catacombs was created as part of an effort to eliminate the effects of the city's overflowing cemeteries. So apparently, all the cemeteries in Paris were just overwhelmed and had tons and tons of bodies that they couldn't bury. They had no room for. So when this was built, they began for several years to take all their excess bodies and bones, but they weren't taking bodies. I don't know if they were. They took bones, only bones of approximately 6 million people. Now, preparation work began shortly after a 1774 series of basement wall collapses around the Holy Innocents Cemetery that added a sense of urgency to the seminary eliminating measure. And from 1788, enough of it was finished that nightly processions of covered wagons transferring bones, from most of Paris's cemeteries. They were all overloaded. They all had tons of bodies and nowhere to put them. But those bodies began to be transferred in nightly processions of covered wagons to mine shafts that led underground. This became the final resting place for millions of souls. Their bodies arranged in macabre displays that stretch in many cases as far as an eye can see. Now, with a history as storied as that, and being the world's largest grave on record, it isn't hard to fathom how it also came to be known as haunted. Visitors frequently report experiencing paranormal phenomena, including seeing apparitions, hearing disembodied voices, witnessing strange orbs and spectral lights, and even feeling touched in many cases, only to turn around and there's no one there. Now, the catacombs are a vast network of tunnels over 320 kilometers, by the way. Many visitors have been known to get lost. The only one that is confirmed that died while in there was Filbert Aspart, who vanished in the catacombs in 1793. He wasn't found for until 1804, 11 years later. He was found just a few feet from an exit,
Oh my gosh.
dead, obviously. He was found 11 years later. Again, 320 kilometers of tunnels that crisscross. There is no map. Even today, there's no known map of all of them. So it's very easy to see how someone could get lost down there. When he was in there, public tours were available. They were for many, many years. Not only public tours were available, they weren't guided. You were free to go. Just go look around. They obviously had to stop. I think it was the mid 1800s they stopped because they figured out the tourists were just stealing bones. The church had a huge problem with the fact that human remains had become a tourist destination, that people were going and looking and seeing the bones. So they finally stopped after observing all the damage, and the church began to complain. A couple of very interesting facts about the catacombs. I digress for a second. One of your favorite words. 2 or 3 of the previous events, we said, would you spend a night there? Would you spend a night here in the catacombs?
Man, I
With
don't
the
know.
bones of 6 million
it's
people?
different, like staying the night somewhere where there might be something. If I roll over and there's a row of skulls looking at me, I'm pretty creeped out with that. I don't think so. I think I'd wuss out.
Riverside says my recording has stopped.
Yeah, but it hasn't.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. I refresh, so hopefully it will come back in a second. If it will come back, I'm going to share my screen and show a couple of pictures for those that are on Twitch and YouTube, and they can see some pictures of this. And we are back.
Yeah, I just don't. I can't imagine staying there. I can't imagine sleeping there. One place I would like to sleep is that underwater hotel where you like. Have you seen that? Where everything's open. It's wide open. Like
Oh, yeah.
that's just cool as junk. I would stay there in a heartbeat. It's like $1,500 or $1,600 a night though. I got
Right.
better things to do with my money.
I'll leave a link to the to some of these pictures. It's not going to work. The reason that I was asking if you would spend the night there, in 2015, Airbnb paid £350,000 as part of a publicity stunt, offering customers the chance to stay overnight in the catacombs. So, yeah. In August 2017, thieves broke into a cellar from the catacombs, and apparently it's not just bones that are there. These thieves in 2017 broke into a cellar from the, I didn't understand it at first. They were in the catacombs and from there broke into a cellar of a nearby building. They stole more than $250,000 worth of wine. Just an interesting tidbit.
So was any of it cold, sweet red?
If not, they were doing wine incredibly wrong.
Thank you. I was just making sure we're on the same page. Although tonight I am Modelo in it, not wine in it.
So, 4 different places.
Scariest places in the world. Which of your places are scariest to you?
I was going to ask it this way. Which one would you be least likely to volunteer to spend the night in?
Catacombs for
Me
me.
too.
Hands down.
The
Any of the-
bones of 6 million
No,
people.
I'm done.
And when I say bones, guys, it's nothing but bones.
Yeah,
It's heads and elbows and femurs. It's bones
it's
of 6 million people.
no, I couldn't do it.
I would have to draw the line with that. I'm not going.
I
for
don't
that.
even know. I might like stick my head in, look around, but that's the extent of how I don't want to step.
I think I'm pretty good with pictures. I would go to Google and search it and hit images and look at some pictures. Normally these things don't bother me, but yeah,
Well,
not the bones of 6 million people.
I personally like a good haunting story and a good ghost story. If you guys have a good ghost story that you want to share, Jerry, tell them to reach out to our email at.
Newsworthy with Stephen Jerry at gmail.com.
We'd love to get you on the program and talk to you about your ghost story
That
or
we
your
would.
encounter. Please do that. That was an interesting episode, but our journey isn't over yet. If you stay tuned, we have an exciting bonus story coming up after this commercial break.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. When it comes to buying a home, the process can be overwhelming and confusing. With so many options, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why it's important to work with a certified mortgage loan originator. I have the knowledge and expertise to guide you through the process and find the best mortgage option for you. I will work with you every step of the way to ensure that you are getting the best deal possible. So if you're looking to purchase or refinance, please reach out to me at 502-680-0953. So don't take on the stress of buying a home alone. Work with me and I will make your dream a reality. Trust the professionals and make your home buying experience a positive one. MLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, MLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is equal housing opportunity.
If you would like to share suggestions for future episodes, an intriguing ghost story, or simply tell us how much you love or hate us, please get in touch with us. You can reach us via email at newsworthywithstephenjerry@gmail.com or send us a text at area code 540-709-1318.
And now, back to the story. Jerry, if you ever go to Finland and you're in the mountains and you smell a foul, horrendous stench, be aware. There may be a troll close to you.
Surely not.
Trolls have appeared in cultures worldwide, yet the myth of these strange mountain-dwelling beasts originated in Northern Europe, mainly Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Trolls are often considered large, evil beasts, although less intelligent than humans, but still very cunning. They're quite strong, able to lift and throw huge boulders. Their skin is tough, and they are larger than humans, and their only true weakness is sunlight and lightning. A great deal of effort has been undertaken to trace the legends of the trolls all the way back to ancient Scandinavian stories and language. The following is a direct quote from translated Finnish research on the Peko, a type of troll creature said to roam the rural mountains and forests of Finland. Appearance: they range in size from small to enormous, hairy with large nose and ears, slow, stupid, and sometimes even lazy. They may turn actually into rocky landscape features for long periods, even centuries. Some individuals are aggressive and may kidnap children who stray too far from home. Children today even fear the invisible Hamaskapeko, who secretly makes holes in their teeth. Another invisible subspecies, the Kranakaka, and that is how you say this. Some still times make children fight, sulk, or do other things that displease their parents. Stories of trolls often connect them to misfortune in rural villages, particularly in the theft of valuable items and the kidnapping of children and young maidens. Trolls are thought to live a very, very long time, and despite their evil demeanor, they have been said to maintain complex social organizations and live in clans or large family groups. What do you think? Trolls? I don't know about trolls.
I would agree.
And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.
we did it.
I've been able to tell you a couple weeks ago you changed the